Do you like when we do that? Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Tuesday meeting of the BOCC. Well, if you want to join me, we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we'll get through the minutes, and then we have a special presentation from a young man, Chief Eagle Scout. So we're gonna hear from him. But we'll get through the minutes, and I'd ask Commissioner Mortensen for a review of the minutes.
Good morning, everyone. Nice to see everybody here. And as usual, I reviewed the minutes of the activities last week, and I move to approve those minutes.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Questions, corrections? Seeing none, we'll call for a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I should note Commissioner Weber is out sick today, so he won't be joining us. Our next presentation, we have a young man, Ethan Metcalf. If he wants to come up, he has a presentation that he did. He achieved the Eagle Scout, and so he's going to give that to us, and we're going to give him a certificate for his work.
Hello, my name is Ethan Metcalf. I am a Eagle Scout out of Troop 313 based in Castle Rock. And today I made a presentation just to show what my project was about and how I came to be, or how I came to make the project. Let's see. My clicker is not.
You don't know how bad Kelly wants that thing to work.
Okay. So when I was making this, I just put in a little information. So my project is informational signs. There are 2 informational signs and then a welcome sign, welcoming visitors to Castle Rock and just directing traffic through town. That's what it assists with. And then it is a collaboration with the Mount St. Helens Motorcycle Club. In the left picture, that's me meeting with them and making sure that everything will be run smoothly and what times when I should create my project. And it was also a collaboration with the Castle Rock Blooms team on the right. I met with Nancy a lot because she helped me come up with the idea of this project. And I had an estimated time of the end of December, which was wrong. It was more January. So here's the start. This is what it looked like before. Those blue flags, I know it's hard to see, but that's the area I had to work with. I couldn't go outside of that. So it was like 8 feet by 8 feet. So it wasn't really a big space to work with. But this is the before pictures. And here's my inspiration. I was driving around a lot with my dad, trying to look at different signs in different cities. And I took this picture from Toledo. And I really liked the way that it just had all the information out and directed visitors and other people to areas around their town. And so in school, I did CAD work, which is computer aided design. And on the left is a design I drew up, which I didn't really like in the end, but it was a starting piece for what I wanted to do. And on the right, I drew up more on paper. Whoops, too far. Here we are. This is me with my troop. A lot of adult leaders and youth came out to help me, which it was a good turnout for our troop since at the time it was a little smaller, but I went with a red sign and white lettering just so it could catch people's attention more when they would be driving past, because I know there's not really much to look at on the left side of the 4-way stop there. And yeah. And then here's my welcome sign. I worked a lot with my shop teacher in class and used the CNC router that our school has to engrave letters into this sign that I wanted. So I had it say "Welcome to Castle Rock," and then I took it home, painted the letters, stained the wood, made sure that it no water could get into it. I sealed it. And there it is all together. And then recently in April, we had a Castle Rock cleanup day. And so I was assigned to putting fresh bark dust around the sign and then just making sure that it looked fresh. And it was, but as you can see in the left photo, there was the old bark dust compared to the new bark dust. And I took these the other day. It was a street view of what it looks like now with all the flowers blooming. And I don't think it looks half bad. I like it. And that's the end of my presentation.
Well done. I live out West Side Highway past that. I'm about 4 miles past the high school. So I saw it start to go to work, and I was always giving credit to the city, and I don't have to take that back. It was you that did it. So great job. Let me read this to you, and then Commissioner Mortensen and I will come around and do this. Certificate of Excellence. This certificate is awarded to Ethan Metcalf, presented by the Cowlitz County Commissioners. In recognition of your achievement as an Eagle Scout and as a graduating class of 2024, your hard work and dedication have paid off. Best wishes for continued success in the future. And it's signed by 3 of us, Commissioner Mortensen, District 1, Commissioner Weber, District 2, and myself in District 3.
Mr. Chairman, before we do that, may I ask questions?
Absolutely.
Ethan, have a seat. In my younger days, long time ago, I thought Boy Scouts were the nearest thing to heaven. But I realized then also that as you progress from a tenderfoot to Eagle, there are a lot of requirements. And I see in your sash, you've got badges after badges. There may not be enough people out there now who understand just how significant an effort it is to achieve Eagle Scout. Can you just give us a quick run through, maybe 4 sentences that say, well, do you need this many badges? You're split into these number of areas, that kind of thing.
I believe there's 22 required badges you need to be an Eagle. And those are the ones that you have to take at camp or on paperwork as well. And due to COVID, I wasn't able to go to camp one year. So it was a lot of paperwork that year. So it was, it is a lot of work. I could actually, this one, so to indicate which ones are Eagle, they're outlined in a different color than the rest of the badges. So the rest are outlined in green and our Eagle ones are white. So that's just to show that they're more significant than the others. I wouldn't say more significant, but they're ones that are more required. So.
And it seems like we have a lot of people that are sucked into like an Xbox. And that doesn't seem as constructive as what you did, what you have to do as an Eagle Scout or to achieve the Eagle Scout. Do you have recommendations for people of your age? That's kind of an offhand way of really saying, did you have a good time? Is that a good thing? Don't we need more Eagle Scouts?
It was a good time being an Eagle, and I say, for me, I'm also I've spent a lot of time on my Xbox too, but I just like to stay motivated. It was really hard for me. I procrastinated a lot on my project, and it showed near the end when I almost turned 18 before it was completed, which you can't be an Eagle after you're 18. So you have to complete every requirement before. And so I just had to tell myself, this is not okay to play on your Xbox every day. You need to get this done. So you just have to have the right mindset for it. I would say it's not for everyone, but I wish everyone would try and just enjoy Scouts.
Well, you've learned a lot of important things, including the timeliness, and then when you have a commitment to yourself, it isn't easy.
Mm.
So, and that's something I see too often. There's an easy button out there. Oh, well, why bother? And it's because as you get older, you realize what you can do then is the accumulation of everything you've learned along the way, and self-discipline is important, and then just the discipline to be able to help yourself. I appreciate everything you've done.
Thank you.
I've got to say, Mr. Chairman, I'm about as impressed as I've ever been.
Yeah, I was just thinking, that's the special part of our job. Okay, consent agenda. We'll run through that. Item 1, we have a call for hearing. It'll be July 9th at 9:45. It's on establishing CPACER programs. We have a call for bids, food service management for meal services for the jail and juvenile facilities. We have to send that out every so often, and this year is a year we need to send those out for bid. Agreements, contracts, bid awards. We have a contract with True Point Solutions for Acela support for ongoing maintenance and support for our permit system through the end of December 2025 for a total amount not to exceed $37,500. We use this a lot in building and planning, stuff that there may be stuff we don't have the knowledge base on how some of it works, or we don't have the time, and we use the True Point Solutions to help us develop some of that and work through it. 4, 5, and 6 are all contracts that we've looked at before. We have a contract execution, Compass Construction Northwest for the Clamor River Road culvert replacement project. That's a total project of $105,300. County contract execution with Lakeside Industries for the countywide pavement overlay for 2024. That's a total contract of $2,121,010. And a bid award to Specialized Pavement Marking for the 2024 Joint Agency Pavement Striping. The total cost of that project is $764,007. Cowles County debt policy, item 7. Every so often per RCW, it needs to be updated. So that's what we've updated that policy. It runs through the finance committee, and then it runs through our bond company, and they've both reviewed it and approved the updates. Item 8, renewal of our annual support for our Laserfish annual support and updates. The total cost is $53,230.07. It's roughly a $2,000 increase from last time, around 3%. A quote from Blue Ally to purchase 14 switches to replace aging equipment. Total amount is $125,506.26. These are Cisco switches. We have roughly 4 dozen total that are aging out. The 14 number came from basically the human resource we have available to do those this year. But you'll see this probably continue for the next couple years, 2-3 years, as we replace those aging switches. And then we have personal service agreement with Shield Assessments to provide psychological examinations for those potential applicants for pre-entry process. This actually, we use this over at the juvenile center to work there. You go through quite a process, and we the fee for that is in 2024 would be $385 per session. I think that's how he explained it yesterday. And in 2024, $165 per session. We've done this for quite a while. This isn't anything new, but it's gotten to the point where we have enough applicants and stuff goes through. If it's $2,500 or under, we don't need a contract. It's just paid through. Well, it's reaching a point where it's going over the 2,500. So then we need to put it into a contract. Letters and notices. Federal Energy Regulatory Commission sent a letter to Pacific Core. It's basically was an acknowledgement of their safety plans on multiple projects. Letter from the Southwest Clean Air Agency regarding the supplemental income to be paid for the next calendar year. We get billed for their services. And so they just send us a deal to let us know what it's going to be this coming year, and the amount that we have to pay will be $30,565.12. A letter reappointing Kelly Lane to the Board of Health, representing the Consumer of Public Health, 2-year term, and it expires 2026. We had 3 expirations came up. We sent out, and we had, I don't know how long the application process was out there right off the top of my head, but it was out there for a while, and we had 3 applicants come back in. So Kelly Lane was reappointed. Lorna Stewart was appointed to the Board of Health representing other community stakeholders, 2-year term, that expires the end of June 2026. And a letter to William Youngren, appointing him to the Board of Health representing public health, 2-year term that expires the end of June 2026. A letter to Brad Keith, appointing him to the Rodeo Board, this 4-year term that expires the end of October 2028. And a letter to, I'll probably butcher this, Korea McGill, approving the appointment to the Southwest Washington Workforce Development Council, representing the private sector. This term expires the end of June 2027. And then last week, we had vouchers in the amount of $3,373,192.86. And that's it for consent agenda. Any questions, comments?
I have a question about the permits. As I've mentioned to you before,
The permits?
the permit, yes, on number 3,
Oh, okay.
all the way back up there. As I mentioned to you once before, we were trying to sell some property, and it's cost us not quite, but close to $20,000 for permits. Now, does this company add on to the cost of permits? Because if so, I think your departments need to be more knowledgeable so they can process their own permits instead of hiring out. Because $20,000 was a lot of money.
It's not a, I don't know everything Excel does, but it's not it puts the process online. It's basically an online presence. You'll be able to look up properties easier and do different things. Whether it gets, every that's kind of hard to answer, Flo, because every expense you do in an apartment, it basically comes out in some way, gets paid for, right? Is there a permit fee because we use Excella? No. Is there a cost of doing business and building and planning that's probably built into the cost of different permits? Yeah.
So
Okay, but all I'm trying to say, I guess, is the fact that since I've had to outlay that much money for what we're doing, I can imagine what it's doing to our county as far as other people trying to build homes. And if you're trying to get low-cost housing out, that's gonna fly out the window. Because after you put out that much money, and then everything else has gone up, that's not gonna work. And the layperson doesn't understand why it would cost that much money to process what they're doing. I have to pay another $3,000 at the end of this, and at the end of the week, or probably next week, just so it can be registered. Now, how difficult can that be? $3,000 worth? I doubt it, but that's what they're charging. And honestly, it just does not ring right. It's not right that you have to pay that much. I mean, I'm sorry, but is it state regulated? I think it is. And that's why I don't blame you guys.
There's a lot of, well, you've heard me talk on this before. There's a state building committee formed in the 80s that decides building codes and stuff for all counties. And I have no issues with that because it takes control out of the county and it adds a lot of cost to housing. I mean, I've given you some of those numbers. About a quarter of the cost of housing is regulation.
Well, and I agree with that. But don't you have any influence in that committee? Don't our people here, can't they have some influence on that and say, hey, we need to rethink this? Don't you protest it?
I would protest it all the time. In fact, I just tell them no, but I'm just one person here.
Can you organize other people to help you? All I'm saying is we were just struck dumbfounded when we realized each and every cost that we had as we went through this process. It was amazing. We just couldn't believe how much it would cost. It just was not logical that it would cost that much. I'm sorry. And again, I know it's state regulated, but can you get together with other county commissioners in other counties and say, okay, if we want growth, we have to change something? I don't, just a thought, because it hurt like heck.
Yeah.
Just, I mean.
You're getting into a conversation I think is probably deeper than just this solution
Okay.
here, and that's fine. I think it needs to be brought to head that, we make it real difficult for people doing
Yes.
homes and stuff. And I'm not disagreeing with you, Flo, at all.
Okay.
I just, this is a little bit different thing, but the problem you're talking about is real, and I do try to address certain things that I can address on there.
Okay, I guess it just lately, and I'm sorry to be such a kind of a nuthead on this and just, go off, but it just seems like every time I've turned around lately, there is something, an edict from the state that you have to take and follow that we as local citizens have had no say in, and yet it's being crammed down our throats. And this is only one issue. I'm not talking about others, but after a while you get kind of upset every time you turn around. Well, this is what you have to do. Why? Because we've decided that, not you. Okay, when we did our water, the first time we put our water well in, it was fine. It was a while ago. Okay, then we subdivided. We had to register that well on that property. However, we had to register our own well. It had to have a number. And there's only one logical reason that our well would have a number, is that later on, they're gonna have to tax that. are going to want to tax that because it is registered with the state. Now, we subdivide it again. And not only do we have to re-register our own well, but we have to register that one. And then also we had to pay taxes, pay permits, because we had to retest our own water and have our own septic system redone at a price, even though it was functioning and had been okayed before. And this is what we're fighting. It's like a lot of these things that are being told to us don't make any sense, and it's only to get more money out of us. And if you guys have any idea where I can go to protest this, because it's things that are taking money out of our pockets unjustly, and I would do it. And you know I would, willingly.
Well,
You know, if
all
you
that
can't do
stuff
it, I
start-
will.
all that stuff starts in Olympia legislature.
Oh, I won't believe all the stuff that, yeah, okay, I agree. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to bellyache,
So
but I'm
don't
just
go-
mad.
Don't go away. You should be angry.
Yeah,
You should be angry because the legislatures typically are mad in the traditional sense of mad. They think somehow they can legislate the world and make it to their liking. In any event, let me just address specifically your question on True Point, and does that factor in? Anything out of context like this seems like it's going to add to the tab. And specifically, I don't know what the argument might be there, because I don't recall whether this gets spread out over the fees or this gets spread out over the departments, because I think it gets spread out over the fees. But what's the alternative? We finally, over the past year and a half under Tracy Jackson, have been cleaning up tremendous amount of stuff. Prior to that, we had an effort, and I'm going to throw out a number. I think we spent probably $800,000 on it to do what Excella is doing now. And so you might look at that as a little more cost effective than what we had before. Our current attitude in building and planning is show the customer how they can achieve what they would like to do. Then the pricing comes into effect. Essentially, the cost of building and planning is handled by the fee structure. And that means that the experience of the previous year factors into the current year and all that. I can almost tell you for sure that everything we've been doing is to improve the performance to the customer. One of the arguments about Excella is that it actually turns documents around almost on the spot. I'm an inspector, I got Excel out there, I enter things, and you can go to the office and pick up the permit. That kind of thing. And time is money. You've got to understand too that building and planning has to deal with big developers where time is more important than the money, and the smaller developers like you might be, where time is less important than the money. And we try and play a game of trying to balance that. In the general picture, you're talking to the right set of people here in the sense that we agree with you. Do I care what you build on your property? No, I don't. But we have the RCWs and the WAC rules we have to follow. Tied in with that is the public has this perception that the government will assure that no matter what you do, there'll be proper access for everybody around. It'll conform to standards. And if if you built a private road, say, and it wasn't properly feathered into a county road and an accident occurred, guess who's got the deep pockets? You know, it goes on and on and on. Does it make sense? No, it's an empire of, that's been built, and each time you add a leg to the empire, you get more employees. With more employees reporting to you, you're more important.
Well, I agree that things have to be done correctly and you're,
What is correctly, though?
well, I understand that too, but also in that you're cleaning up what has happened, perhaps not well in the past. And I understand that. However, we have followed county guidelines ever since we moved onto that property and improved. And I believe that if things were actually observed, if the county does come out and observe, and they do, and it's passed, things are passed, then that should have a guarantee, like, okay, this property, the house was wired, let's just take that for an example. This house was wired properly as you're building, okay, and you get a stamp of approval, correct? Then 10 years down the road, then that should still be accepted as it was right at the time. Now, you can't go back and say, well, we're going to charge more because you're going to upgrade because of this new addition. You're going to have to upgrade that because at that time that was proper. And this is what, I know I'm not saying this correctly, and I really am sorry about that. But if you're going by county standards and you're totally, following the guidelines, we're not cleaning up anything that should have been approved. And at that time, when you do another addition to your property, then you shouldn't have to go back and re-examine what you've already had approved, had it been approved correctly.
Let me interrupt you. I don't know how usefully to approach this. I give you one example, and then I see Tracy Jackson's logged on Zoom, and maybe if the chairman agrees, we can ask her to just comment at the high level. At the low level, there's just too many issues. So about 10 years ago, there was a meeting where I sat in. It was in that room. The Board of County Commissioners at the time was entertaining a petition from a citizen who wanted to add on to a house for a granny flat. The building and planning said, no, you can't do that unless you retrofit sprinklers into the house. And the reason was, well, because there was a new ordinance that said if you're building a house larger than X number of feet, you're going to have to put a fire suppression scheme that amounts to, in this case, a sprinkler. Well, the end result of that was the commissioner said, that's tough. And I think that was the improper answer. And the granny flat was never built. Permit was never issued. Anyhow, okay, so that I don't think is the case anymore. Are you up for saying a few words there, Tracy?
Sure. I could run upstairs if you'd like. Getting back to Acela, it is just spread across our department. We have not increased any of our fees for the last 4 years, and we don't intend to, at least at this foreseeable future. So we just eat the cost of if we have to send any of the internal work from Acela. It's the backflow stuff that nobody in the public sees, but we see it internally, and it's a way, it's the mechanics of the backside of the system that make it work between the two departments, environmental health and building and planning, as well as our laserfish system. So it's the nuts and bolts behind the system. We're working with them through this contract to get an interactive map online to where any public citizen can see at any time what's going on anybody's property. So the nosy neighbor can always see what's going on in their neighborhood or whatever. So You can pinpoint on what somebody's doing, and then you will know if they have a permit, what they're working on, what the permit is for. So there are things proactively we're trying to do to assist our department as well as the public, just to make it more user friendly. We only use this company if it's internal staff that can't program or get the workflow pieces to work. We send out that the work to this third party group. They're currently on staff. We have a bill that needs paid, and we need a not to exceed number and an ending date for our auditor's office to make the accounts payable bills go through. So this contract is already really in place. We just, we use it very minimally. And it's $165 an hour we pay, for their services, and they're pretty reasonable for what they charge us for and when. So that's the only reason it's on here, is because we needed an ending date and a not to exceed so we can get bills paid. But it is a current contract we do have, and our department just eats that cost because it's the cost for us to make doing business for us easier. It's not pushed on to the customer. We've actually not pushed any new fees onto the customers for 4 years now, or any
So-
increases.
So
I-
just to repeat, you say that you haven't raised fees for 4 years?
Correct.
And in addition, I think you've actually decreased some fees.
We have decreased fees, and we've also set some of the, we reduced the same as plans to try to get some of the contractors and nonprofits who build the same type homes on different lots, a same as fee, which is, don't quote me, I want to say it's $180 or a couple $100. And that's this, so they can apply for the same house on a different lot, same type situations, to save them money, so we can get more bang for the buck for the customer. We also have a fixed fee for wheelchair ramps, whether it's a very short ramp to stairs or a long ramp that's needed to get a wheelchair accessibility into a home. We've really tried to, I'm trying to think of some of the other ones we've done. Those two come to mind. I know we reduced those last year, but we've not done any increases. I've only been down here a year and a half, but in the last 4 years, they have not done any fee increases.
I really appreciate that. You've mentioned that. However, when I'm sitting here looking at selling 2.5 acres and thousands of dollars of permits in order to do that. And I honestly think that was way too much. If you go, each department has to have their amount, sometimes over and over again. I even had to have my well, they had to come out and look at it because they had to make sure it was put in the right place. They could have done that at the other time, but that was like $500 and some dollars. The other one was $300 and some dollars. They were out there twice, or was it 3 times? I had to have my perk holes. That was another time they had to be out there. I know I know it's dictated by the state. I totally get that. But again, look at the owner of the property and say, okay, if you're going to sell 2 acres, should it cost you thousands of dollars in permits? I mean, logically, I know what you're doing, but it could be done maybe in a more efficient way. It's going to cost me over $3,000 just to have it finalized. It blows my mind. I know you have reasons. There's all kinds of things you have to do, but $3,000 worth. I'm sorry. I'm just voicing what the typical property owner now is looking at and asking the same questions, that it's ridiculous, the amount of permits that we have to pay. And that's all I can say.
Flo, I
think it has to be
apologize.
relooked at.
The septic and environmental health, water, soils, all of that stuff is environmental health. It's not building and planning. So anything that has to do with the environmental health unit, that's dictated by the state and the health department and the Board of Health. That has nothing to do with
I
building and
realize
planning.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I do. And thank you. I do realize that.
Of course.
However, when you're taking it out of your wallet, it's it's the same wallet.
Yep.
It's not a separate wallet. And you're having to pay all those fees. And whether or not I should go to the state and protest on that, I don't know where to go. I don't know what to do. All I know is
Yeah.
I need some help.
We're starting to delve into public comment stuff, I think.
Okay, I'm
I
sorry.
think, Flo.
I'm sorry.
I'm not
I'll let you
trying to
go.
chase you off. I think we're starting to get into better suited for public comment on a broader picture.
Okay, I'm sorry. And I really don't mean to get so cranky. It's just that I'm at my wit's ends. Thank you.
We had one hand up. Anonymous, go ahead. You're on mute. It just says anonymous, so I don't, you have your hand up. Okay, if they pop back. I don't know. Any other comments on consent agenda?
On item number 7, I just want to call attention to kind of a sequitur to the question of Excella in a upper level sense, so that there is a constant effort to clean up county policy. And in this case, we owe the treasurer, Deborah Gardner, a thanks for that. We need spring cleaning on the county code,
Yeah,
and that's a big effort. You're always afraid to touch something because the unintended consequences can be painful.
Yeah.
Anyhow, I appreciate her effort and all the other electeds that try to clean stuff up. So, Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the consent agenda as you have presented.
okay, we have a motion to approve. Any other questions on the consent agenda? I still see the hand up, but he or she hadn't chimed in. So. Okay, seeing none, we'll call for a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Okay, we have, just to remind you, tomorrow at 2:30, we have Lower Columbia Fish Recovery Board in for a workshop. Robert Sudar will be coming in to do that. I've talked about this a couple times, but there's, on one of the culverts, we had quite a few questions on salmon and recovery, and Mr. Sudar is very schooled in that. So it was kind of a request to bring him in and just have that opportunity to chat. So tomorrow at 2:30, there will be that opportunity. And with that, we'll open up to public.
Good morning, Commissioners. I would just like to echo Flo's sentiment, and I agree with her 100% on premise. The very institution that's saying that we need to work on bringing affordable housing to our areas is the same institution that is continually dumping costs down citizens' throats. So it's kind of an irony there. What's interesting about what she said was, I think, and I'm speaking as a citizen, not as a candidate right now. As a citizen, what we would like to see is the people who we elect stand up and fight for us and not hear the words, well, that's what the state, that comes from the state. It's mandated from the state. It's the RCW, it's the WAC, whatever it is. As citizens, what we want to see is we want to see the people who we have elected stand up and fight for what is right for the citizens that they represent. And the reason I bring this up is my construction company that in Eastern Washington right now, we're going through the same exact thing with permitting and with the issues that Flo just brought up on the homes that we're working on over there. And the thought of working together and pooling county commissioners throughout the state, I would venture to say that if that effort was made, that the majority of the county commissioners in our state would be on board with standing up to the state and saying, we've had enough, something needs to change. Because it's the same issues over there. in Moses Lake and Ephrata and Ellensburg, we're having the same exact issues with the permitting process, with the expense that is being shoved down citizens' throats. And as elected servants, what would be really nice to see is that there's an effort being made in communicating that effort to the citizens as to what is being done to advocate on our behalf with regards to this stuff. Because I mean, good luck with affordable housing, right? I mean, and not only does it affect affordable housing, it also impacts our economic development completely throughout the county. When we're looking at our growth moving forward, if people are having to deal with the finances and the expense that it takes to come in and develop within our state, I'm not saying it's the county, within our state, we have our backs against the wall when it comes to that. So I really feel that if there's an effort to push back and create a consortium within the county officials and within those people who we elect, and to be able to communicate that to the citizens that there's something that's being done on their behalf, I think would go a long way. The other thing I wanted to bring, go ahead, Commissioner.
Well, you just touching on some things I can touch on for you. I have talked to some of those people, and no, a lot of them are not willing, even though they agree with us, are willing to fight the state. See, not only do we have to be willing to fight the state, and I'd be willing, I'm the one that abstained from adapting the new rules. But you're gonna have to be willing too, because they're gonna file suit. They're gonna file suit against the county. They're gonna do all kinds of things, threats all to the people building houses and stuff. So it's not just us that have to have a backbone. You have to have one too. Because if we stand here and stand firm and the builders and everybody else cave, then it's not gonna work. So it's really both sides of the aisle that have to do this. And I agree with you. I think it can be done if people will stand up and do it. I said, we had the auditor in the other day and they passed some stupid rule. And I said, well, all you guys got to do is say no. If 39 auditors say no, they can't do it. Well, and I know the people sitting here would be willing to do some of that, but it comes on that side too.
Oh, I agree 100%.
Yeah.
And I feel, and that's why I said, I feel that if there's an effort made to communicate those efforts from the elected servants to that they are willing to do that. So some of the commissioners that I talked to, one of the commissioners in Moses Lake about the same issues that we're having here. And a big part of the problem, to your point, is as citizens, one of the first things that we need to do is we need to elect people that are going to fight, number one, and not just have the attitude that, well, it came down from the state, so that's what we have to do. That's where it starts. And as a citizen, the other thing I can tell you is if I see you guys, my representatives, standing up and fighting and communicating that to me as a citizen, I'm on board. But when citizens like Flo come up, and I'm not saying you guys do this, but this is something that seems to be common, well, it's mandated by the state. As citizens, where do we go? How does that make us feel when we have that, told to us over and over and over?
Yeah.
So I think that the effort needs to be communicated to us, the citizens, that, hey, we're willing to do this, but we need your help too. So that there's something pulled together to make that happen.
If I may, there's so many things to be said here. The last statement reminds me of the aphorism. I'm not sure to whom it is attributed, but it's, at first they came for this, then they came for that, and I stood by. And finally, at the end of this chain of things, they came for me. That really is a problem. I have said many times here, the citizens have more power than they understand, but what they understand today is the convenience of today. I can't go to the protest in Olympia. I can't go to the protest at the Monticello Square. If 1,000 of us showed up at the Monticello Square, things would change within the local legislation. Just extrapolate that out. So while it's easy to point to any one individual, the convenience of the public is still such that only a few at the time are inconvenienced and everybody else says, well, I've got more important things to do. There's nothing more important than to get things straight here today. We've done a good deal of that along the lines here, and I hope whoever wins the elections will continue that, respecting the citizens' rights to come up and speak anonymously or without identifying themselves or anything of that nature is something that doesn't happen in the other communities. And that's just an example of where the county tries to lead, but we can't even do that in our own county. That is, we can't even get the municipalities to sign up to that. They still have their arcane rules about decorum. Now, he and I have to have proper decorum. You don't. You can send F-bombs at us, and that's a capability you've got. We are constrained on that. And I'll jump a moment to one of the government techniques available is extortion. You want to contest this here? Well, we're going to take away these grants. So as long as we continue to feed at the government grant trough, which we do a lot, we are going to feel it's like we have to cooperate with them on things that we know we shouldn't do. That's a reason why I've never, even in my private existence, when I had a lot of budgetary responsibilities, I never let any vendor ever buy me lunch. It's just one of those things. You just don't want to start that line because it creeps. The banning of natural gas, I think what's at 2066, the initiative that's trying to fight that ban on natural gas. It's going to require a monumental effort to undo that stupid law. Will it will the people come together? I know I've signed a petition. Lots of people have to come together. That shows you the power of the public again. Recently, what is it, Jim Walsh and I forget the name of the entities. Anyhow, they were able to get 3 initiatives by the people. And of course, then there's some organization out there that says, well, that's not legal. So they file a suit and a judge. I mean, we got tons of issues, but pressure by the people is really at the bottom line. Understanding by the people is at the bottom line. And I had some other quickies, but well, recently you heard the chairman report. The chairman is a member of the Legislative Steering Committee in the Washington State Association of Counties, WASAC. WASAC is now upset, or I should say, as an entity, there's some troubles because the people that are members of WASAC, all the counties, pay on a capitation basis. So the 3 largest counties pay the bulk, but they get only 1 vote. And they're unhappy about that. It's not good enough for them that they dominate the legislature with an overwhelming amount of votes. They want to have votes in WASAC also. The WASAC is a bizarre thing anyhow. When you say get counties together, I don't think they've handled that properly. I agree with you. If we got our house in Cowlitz County so clean that we were exemplary at solving lots of issues, we would get a lot of counties following through. Early on during the COVID, as an example, there were others. Counties would contact me and say, what kind of, I hear you're doing a resolution of some kind. Can we look at it? Do you mind if we use it? And the answer is no. Do good stuff and it will proliferate. Anyhow, enough of a soapbox, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. The other thing I wanted to bring up with regards to the food, you know, we talked about Meals on Wheels last week and that type stuff. And I want to commend you guys. I do believe that you're heading in the right direction and you're doing the right things. I spent this weekend going around to our local food banks and talking with the people in line, not necessarily talking with the people that were handing out the food, but talking with the people in line. And the overwhelming majority are obviously very grateful that there's opportunities for them to be able to provide food for their family with the cost of living being what it is. But I heard multiple times over and over and over that, and it's interesting because these are the people who are in line to receive free food. But what they brought up a very good point, and that is that, for example, Woodland Action, they allow them to go through and to pick out whatever, groceries or whatever food they want. They specify how much you can take of each one of those items, but they're able to go through and to choose. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because I believe Commissioner Mortensen, you brought this up on the Meals on Wheels. Some of the other food banks just give them a box that's full of food that they don't get to choose what they want. And the overwhelming majority of them said, we end up throwing more than half of that stuff away because we don't use it. Primarily in the Hispanic community, a lot of the canned goods, they don't eat canned goods. They eat fresh stuff. They cook it. And so I talked to probably 15 people at one location, and they said that they get these boxes full of food, and sometimes they only use 3 or 4 things out of that, and they end up throwing it away. So the reason I'm bringing that up is I know that you guys have questioned how those food programs are being run and brought up the waste and things of that nature. So I just wanted to say I appreciate your awareness of making sure we're not just throwing money away. The majority of the food banks that I went to are the food is provided by private business, close dated stuff and that type of thing. But anything that the government is going to fund, that the county is going to give money to, I think we need to make sure that we're not giving money to programs that we're throwing away 75% of the food that's being given out. So I just wanted to commend you guys for your efforts in that
You
area.
remind me, several years ago, pre-COVID, I walked around, pre-Camp Alabama, I walked around a few of the ad hoc camps out and around, and the amount of trash and filth was just astounding. Amongst things in the trash were reasonably decent articles of clothing, but throw it away. I don't need it now. It's not cold. All right. I will find a new one next time cold comes. Canned goods, you mentioned. Wasted food all over the place, and yet we're told all the time that hunger is a big problem. I think there are other larger problems.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that we shouldn't be taking care of those people that are in need. They're being taken care of. What I'm saying is that if the county is going to fund any of that, I'm glad that you guys are doing your due diligence to make sure that whoever is receiving those funds, that they're being used and that there's no waste and it's being run efficiently.
Yeah.
But I can tell you that the overwhelming majority of the people that were there were very grateful and gracious to the fact that there was opportunities for them to be able to go and provide, for their families. So if anything, I think that we should look for opportunities to help the institutions, not necessarily with funding, but with creating opportunities for them to have more access to food and resources and that type of stuff, and maybe giving them tax incentives to do so. So, but anyway, thank you.
Interesting discussion. Lots to say. It's getting close to time. You want to?
Well, it is getting close to time to Board of Health, but I don't want to cut people off, so I'll give a few. Sorry, Kelly, we're going to probably run a little bit longer here.
A quick note under state mandates and executive orders. The Longview School Board meeting last night, again, looking at budgets and looking ahead, commented how they are severely hit with unfunded environmental mandates under the environmental, again, Inslee's Green Deals and Green Agenda, that there's only one way that they're paid for, and that's by us, all of us. So that's another implication of the state mandates on us. Then the other is that moving ahead, the county mental health facility, that's been a common topic in the last few months. What is the status on that?
I'm assuming you're referring to one where we're trying at the juvenile center that provide some space for juveniles.
The mental health facility, not necessarily juveniles, the subject, the mental health facility that has been discussed at the Longview City Council meetings, proposing using a facility that we have, and I presume.
The only one I'm working on is with the juvenile center to convert some of that space.
I
but it
think
has
that's
to be
the
with
one, yes.
juveniles. And
Yes.
where we're at on that is a firm we use in different parts is drawing up plans for us with a cost estimate. And once I get those plans and the cost estimate, it'll come back. My promise to the commissioners is I work on this and I get information, we bring it back and we make a decision if it makes sense to keep going forward or it doesn't. So that's kind of where we're at right now, Ron. I'm waiting to get, can they retrofit a part of this building and what would it cost to do that?
Okay, so at least it's still on the burner and
Yeah.
moving.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
One of the things you mentioned was the school levies. And that's an area where the public almost always votes for the school levies. And that's akin to the argument I was presenting earlier where you don't worry about anything. I got my kids in school, so I'm going to make sure that the school is properly funded regardless of whether they're doing a good job or not, because my kid likes to play sports or something like that. Until the public gets together and starts analyzing things, until they realize that every time they vote for these programs that are clearly failing, they're part of the problem. It's hard for us to argue against things when people are saying, yeah, I'll pay the extra on my property tax. I'll force my neighbor to pay the extra on the property tax.
Right, and that's the purpose of this venue right now. Some of the public may be listening and hearing and knowing is that we all have to work together. We're here to comment and support you in those activities, and you can tell us and help us know what we can do too.
Morning, everyone. I'll try to be brief. So I live in Kalama and I'm here to, I'm a founder of a community-based organization and I'm very concerned with public health. I'd like to ask Wayne Nelson and the Board of Commissioners to reopen the SERPA process for Pinnacle Holdings and the Drax Company. They're international based. They are planning to produce 500,000 wood pellets, biomass, and ship them off to Asia at the Port of Longview. It's going to hurt the economy here. It's going to hurt public health and the environment. Drax has a proven track record across the Southeast US about lying about their numbers. Reopening the SEPA process would give us a chance to properly vet their activities. So they're planning to bring in, and they lied about this, but it's about 472 big trucks per day through Longview. It's a little bit low income. There's already a public health program with fentanyl and things like that. So bringing in this additional pollution would negatively impact our citizens. Now with the economy, so Drax, I've heard they're not planning on hiring any union jobs. They are going to be at the upper limit of the EPA Environmental Protection Agency's limits on atmospheric pollution. So just this one large company, it's UK based, they're coming in, they're not hiring union people, and they're going to exceed the atmospheric limits so that no other corporate company can come into the port and bring in their jobs in their industry. So no other current companies down at the port can expand their practices. So Drax is going to come in and take all the jobs. They're going to exceed the environmental pollution so that there's no more economic benefits for anyone else, any other state or local companies. They're also going to be with these trucks impacting the air pollution. So we need to reopen the SEPA process to do a traffic impact analysis. 472 trucks. So what about the traffic, the congestion, the signals? So we need to properly vet Drax, reopen the SERPA process, know the facts, look into their clear cutting, all of the timber that they're going to be requiring to produce these 500,000 wood pellets per year. So Wayne Nelson and the commissioners, I ask you to please reopen the SERPA process. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Couple more minutes, then we'll head into.
Oh,
Board of
this will
Health.
be
Go
real
ahead.
quick.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Your previous comment about telling the assessors that, you know, if 39 of them stood together and told the state no, then they would control it. Well, there's 39 counties and they all have county commissioners, I believe. If the 39 county commissioners all stood together and said no, you'd control it. At this level, we can say, yes, we support you. But if you had a coalition of the county commissioners that would all stand together, even a majority group of them who would take an issue, I don't care what the issue is, and take it to Olympia, and maybe even take it to a courtroom, I don't know. But somewhere, some way, if you had the majority of the county commissioners who all stood together, you could do just what you were telling us a few minutes ago that you recommended to the assessors. I don't know how you do it, but that'd be.
It was the auditor.
Or auditor, okay.
Yeah,
You
No,
just described
I-
Wasack.
yeah.
Yeah,
I agree with you, and I don't even need 39. Just give me a majority and I do it. And I can tell you this, I do talk to them. And if I get to that majority, I certainly would have no issue pushing back.
okay, thank you.
Okay, I think we'll, we will adjourn, because we have Board of Health, we have some things to do. And I'm not seeing anybody else rushing in and the hand went down. We will adjourn this meeting and then maybe a 5-minute recess and we'll get set up with Board of Health. We are adjourned.